folks, welcome Jojo and James to the Discord. Thank you all for coming. Do you just want to do a little intro about yourselves and tell us a little bit about your work on Cult of the Lamb?
Yeah. Why don't you go first, Jojo?
Oh, thank you so much. What a gentleman. My name's Jojo. I'm head of narrative at Massive Monster on Cult of the Lamb. I do the writing. I do the words. I help develop like the overall story, the little journey you go on, beginning, middle, end, inciting incident, climax, rah, 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 rah. And just have a good time with my pals making a game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do. My name's James, or Jim. I am the art director at Massive Monster, so I'm directing an incredible team of artists, Carlos, and animator, Jan, and I do a little bit of drawing, a little bit of animating, a little bit of directing, all that fun stuff. Yeah, good, excited to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. I mean, this kind of sets up my first question. You've both just very briefly talked about like the size of team that you have. How big are we talking for Cult of the Lamb? How big is the operation, and how many people would you say are kind of like your immediate like colleagues within your sphere?
I should know the exact answer, but I think it's like it's maybe 17 around that. So when the game first came out, I think there was like five of us, and then we've kind of slowly grown the team since then. So then, yeah, we have. I could go through the team if that's.
I think saying that we've got a good cult size is a good,
yeah.
But to burst the video.
You don't need to know their names.
You don't want a cult to get any bigger than like 17, 18, because after that you start becoming a religion, and then there's too much paperwork.
That's a good point. Yeah, I suppose like what I kind of want to get out of you is in this Discord to kind of extract from you is more about sort of like your artistic process, about like what it means to be sort of artists in the game development sphere. Because I feel like whenever I talk to developers, it kind of hit and miss whether they even would like kind of consider themselves as artists to begin with. A lot of people would see themselves as more software first rather than arts first. And with my work in Lost and Cult, like a lot of the teams that we work with would absolutely consider themselves to be artists. So I guess the first question I kind of want to ask is like, Cult of the Lamb to me has this like really beautiful balance between like dark and light, between something that's a little bit funny and something that's a little bit grim. So we've kind of got these like, gorgeous little like animated characters that are put beside blood, gore, sex, violence, like all the wonderful things of the day. So I guess in both of your departments, in both narrative and art, how dark is too dark and how silly is too silly in order to like balance these things on the scale?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fine line. Particularly about our game, we try and sort of walk that balance, and there's definitely some things that are a little bit too silly, and then some things that are a little bit too sort of fucked up, but we kind of try and find that balance, because I think it's you kind of having that juxtaposition there. Like if you lean too far into one direction, it kind of ruins the other side of it. And I think our cartoon style kind of lets us get away with a lot. You can kind of cannibalism and having babies and then slaughtering the babies and feeding them to other cultists and all that stuff. Like
as you do, as one does. It's on a Friday, as one does.
Yeah, if it was a realistic art style, then we probably wouldn't be able to get away with that. But I think we're pretty happy to push things pretty far. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, Jojo, if you have any thoughts on that in terms of the writing or anything.
We've never really like codified it. I think it's like a lot of it is pretty vibes based about where we find the line. But I think that like instinctively, as far as we go in one end, so as far as we go dark, we have to go that far light as well, so that we don't tip the scales too far of being like a game that's just real grim dark and lots of messed up things happen, or a game that's just really fluffy and like nothing serious ever happens. Like I think we're unconsciously conscious of making sure that the two sides of that scale stay evenly weighted.
Yeah. So would you say that there's like a sort of, would one of your immediate thoughts be like, I'm gonna go super super dark, and you would need like somebody else to be like, hey Jojo, like maybe not, like maybe let's put a bit of laughs in here. Like I feel like as artists we kind of tend to lean into one side? Like, is there any sort of like checks and balances you do with each other when you play test with each other? Do you like, hey, did this make you laugh? Or like, is this, does this character pop enough against like the bloodied floor and like the hanging, jails sort of thing?
Yeah, I guess for me, like definitely during the early development, it was like everyone would I'd draw something and it was always just too cute, and everyone was like, "Make it more horrible, make it more fucked up," because it's just my default was always going towards the kind of cute and colourful, cartoony stuff. So I've definitely been sort of dragged towards the more horrific side of it. But I think when like it's hard to draw something that's too horrific in that art style. I mean, I'm sure there's some things you could do that you wouldn't want to do, but like I feel like there's just a natural kind of barrier there, just with the style. I would say.
Yeah, I think for me it's like sometimes because like we're very design led and we're very like visuals led as well. And while like I'll have input sometimes about like characters or NPCs, like even big ones, where I'll be like, I think it's funny if this character's a mule because then we get a pun or whatever. I get a lot of joy in like the game is just like subverts expectation all the time, and I get a lot of joy doing that as well. So like if a character comes along like my desk or whatever that I need to write, a storyline or a quest line for, if it's a really cute looking character, I'll really like making it quite sad or like quite messed up. Or Temmie the Innocent's one of the characters from Woolhaven, and her design's like so cute. Carlos made this like adorable little Red Riding Hood lamb. And I was like, okay, great. Well, she's going to love murder because why wouldn't she? And I think as well, a part of like balancing the tone is that like the same way that the cute aesthetic kind of curbs the darker themes, in the language of the game, like I'll often talk around, like use really like poetic or flowery or biblical language to talk around really dark things, which I think is the same way of like kind of curbing and softening those hard edges.
I suppose that's quite an interesting way in thinking about it as well. If you're using sort of biblical language or even like biblical imagery to kind of soften the sort of gruesome edges, because I'm sure we're all kind of aware of how gothic the sort of biblical texts can get. I suppose going on from that sort of idea of like subverting expectations, like the roguelite / roguelike genre is like one that is kind of notoriously quote unquote oversaturated. I would kind of disagree with that, but that's kind of the general consensus. So how do you make something that is both interesting and surprising for a sort of person who is absolutely head of the heels in love with the genre, versus like not straying too far from the sort of core concept that people kind of expect?
I guess for Cult of the Lamb, it was like we kind of wanted to take two different genres and put them together in a way that we haven't really seen done too much before. So it kind of gave us the freedom to like not have to be completely groundbreaking in either side of it, but also, just do it well enough that it's fun, but then the kind of originality comes from the marriage of the two, and then just the art style and the kind of theming and the concept kind of thing. I think because there's so many roguelikes out there, but that like are really fun on great mechanics or whatever, but maybe they don't have so much of a strong theme or like idea there. So I think that's probably one of the strengths of the game, is that we have really solid fantasy for the players to kind of fulfill. I mean, I guess the games came out like nearly 4 years ago now, so it's been a while, so it's probably even more saturated now than it was.
It's wild to me that 4 years ago is like a while ago. Like to me, 4 years ago is like present history. Like that's not.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but I suppose in the video game field, 4 years is an age. It's like a new generation of games has arrived.
Feels like yesterday, but yeah, it's 4 years, nearly 4 years in August.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose like for me as well, like Cult of the Lamb hits that same sort of like flash game sort of cheekiness that I really enjoy. That like kind of naturally kind of gives a big middle finger to like what it means to both like develop games and like be like a sort of like serious game developer, and also what it means to sort of play games, because you sort of play the game and you think it's sort of like a, the surface level is meant to be quite an easy experience. It's kind of giving you this sort of like, fun, I wouldn't say memeable, but like very, surface level stuff. And then as you start playing and as the roguelike starts kicking in, suddenly you're getting like more and more involved in this like, religious narrative of like old gods and all the rest of it. So I suppose, Jojo, I'd quite like to ask you about this. I'm a writer myself, and I think there's a sort of trend at the minute in games that people don't really understand what narrative actually is. Like, they seem to think that narrative is like words in a text box, which, as lovely as they are, like, narrative to me kind of goes further than that. It kind of envelops the whole lore and glues the game together for all the cracks that you find. So I was reading that I think it was either you joined 10 months after the development had started or something along those lines. So I assume a lot of the game had already been kind of built. So like how would you, as a narrative person, kind of describe your, not only your workflow, I guess, but like your contributions to like making the world of Cult of the Lamb? Like, to you, what is narrative?
I think it's fair to say, like, as you pointed out, that like the whole game tells a story. Like, I've seen some things in the chat popping off and people like pointing out really like background art assets or, you know, things like that, because it's true. Like, you see everything in a game, and because of the way people work, we create stories out of them. Yeah, I joined like 8 months before release, so heaps of the game like had been done. Like, it looked beautiful, it was fun to play. The text itself was a bit meh because none of the boys can spell, but like it was pretty much all there. And a lot of the work I did, it was mostly Julian. A lot of the work I did was like J. Jim and Julian, the directors, and like Harrison, a programmer, and Will was a programmer who was on the program at the project at the time. They are really strong storytellers, especially Jim, who does a lot of the art, and Julian. They just don't like tell stories in words as much. And I had trained as a writer, and words were like my bread and butter. So a lot of the work I did was just like looking at all of these parts of the game, like the things that you do mechanically, the way where you start and where you end, how everything looks, like all the biomes and everything. And I kind of like wove it together into maybe a world that had like more consistency and laws that it abided by, and the characters had places in the hierarchy of the world and they had relationships to each other. So yeah, that was kind of a lot of the work I did. It was like a lot of the tightening of the net, I suppose, even though it was all there for me to work with.
Yeah, and would you say that sort of tightening of the net, in your words, would be like inspired by mechanics? Because again, I feel like narrative, the general sort of player perception of narrative is that it's the words that you read between the mechanics. But to me, the best narrative, and the narrative that Cult of the Lamb does, weaves in the idea of the mechanics, the actual playability, the buttons that you press, to be part of the experience. Oh, nearly not my tea over there. But it's part of the experience of inspiring that narrative. So again, I suppose, would you say that the mechanics of the game kind of easily led you down that path to like this sort of, you know, archaic, sort of like dark, like rich story?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Cult of the Lamb, like the reference point, you are the lamb, like the mythical and religious imagery and allegory was present. It was so strong. So it seemed like the very natural next step to reflect that in the actual language of the game, and draw a lot from like, you know, styles of writing that like me Googling archaic words and how to use them.
Liturgical text of the Catholic Church. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it. I've read, like, I was raised very atheistically, but I've read a lot of the Bible for this project. Yeah, but it is like so much as well from the mechanics of like, there are two main mechanical languages in the game, and they are killing and caring, which you can see in like the dungeon crawler side and the colony side of that. And so great, the narrative and all of the writing and the motivation and the objective it gives you, it has to be able to be expressed through those two mechanical languages as well. So I think that's the big thing with writing for games, is that you have to consider everything that you do when you're creating the story. Yeah,
I think what games has. So my background is I come from opera. I'm an opera singer in a past life.
No way, that's so
cool. Yeah. So it was kind of like the sort of like, forgive the phrasing, but the wanky sort of like, you know, opera is the finest art form because it brings together staging and dance and acting and music, and it's sort of like the ultimate art form. I suppose my argument at the minute is that game development kind of is like a more modern version of opera. And I know, Jojo, you were saying you have previously you've got experience writing for the stage. With that sort of like theatrical, like to me, and James, you can jump in here too, is like the design and of the visuals of the game speaks to me of like the Newgrounds Flash game, but it also kind of gives me like 18th century paper theater of like, you know, the sort of like three-dimensional 2D things. So this sort of like gelling, I wonder, is like, would you kind of, in the collaboration between yourselves, like how much fun was that, I guess? Like, how much did you like, did somebody come up with an idea and you just kind of went, yeah, I'll steal that and I'll run with this? Like, how much of it, I guess, is like, could you even maybe tell me one of your favorite things that somebody else in the team came up with that you were like, I'll have that, thank you very much?
Yeah, I mean, Newgrounds is definitely sort of our background. Like, so myself, Jay, and Julian, we all met making Flash games back in the day on Newgrounds, and I think Jay and Julian met on the Newgrounds forum. So that's definitely our kind of background, where we cut our teeth and sort of learned how to make games when we were teenagers, pretty much. And so, you know, we did that for a long time, and then we did a couple of Steam games, and but they were still very much kind of 2D. So then this was the first game where we'd kind of like used Unity and kept the 2D artwork, but kind of did it in a 3D environment, and that kind of meant we could do stuff like have proper lighting and use shaders and cool stuff like that, which just kind of raised the overall I guess visual quality of the game. Not to say that there's anything wrong with just a pure flat cartoon 2D style, but I think we wanted the game to be atmospheric and kind of have sort of depth and a bit of grittiness to it. So yeah, that was really exciting. Like, really enjoyed that because it's the first time we kind of done that, and just being able to add like lights and have things cast shadows and stuff like that was really cool, because everything we'd done before was just like it's just a flat 2D artwork. I've forgotten the second part of your question. Sorry.
That's okay. That's totally fine. I guess like because I've been talking a lot about like boundaries, borders, like the mix, because Cult of the Lamb exists in this sort of like gray area. I think you can obviously see like the cute lamb, the cute, you know, the cute animal characters is the light, and then there's like the grim blood part. But both narratively and art wise, I feel like where Cult of the Lamb for me is really amazing is in the gray area of the mix between the two. So for example, whenever you're designing, what I think is fascinating about Cult of the Lamb as well, design wise, is that like the boundary between like a creature versus like an animal, like between a boss that you fight versus somebody that you're friends with and somebody that you would like kind of want to speak to. So I guess what I want to know is like, where for you design wise, like what's the difference between a spider that wants to kill you and a spider that you want to worship and is, you know, helps you out on your journey?
I don't know. Like, from a purely artistic point of view, it's like often just the eyes, just the way you draw the eyes. Like, we have the lamb and the followers, and a lot of the NPCs kind of have certain style of eyes, and then the enemies have a different style. So, you know, if something's got a big hood and just glowing red eyes, it's probably a baddie.
Yeah, probably.
Obviously, the lines blur and then you have spiders, and then you have the cute spiders and the enemy spiders, and I don't know, like, but you know, I think they generally it is in the eyes and stuff. But yeah, there's definitely been times where like, how do we sort of make this look like a good spider versus the evil ones you just been fighting in the dungeon, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, Jojo, that would be more of like your area. Like, you would get the designs through of like how pushed they are, and I don't want to spoil anyone, but things are not as they appear. People are not exactly who they are. They say they are. So, Jojo, is there any sort of like narrative techniques that you would use to kind of like pull the carpet out from under people and like, you know, subvert that expectation?
Yeah, I guess like honestly, if we're talking just about artistic process, so often like the like character design I'll see it and I'll be like, okay, well, what's the function of it? Like, they need to sell you something, or, you know, they need to exist for this, that, or the other. And then I'll just kind of like look at it and be like, what do you sound like? And just, I don't know. It's very, I think like a lot of the artists in Massive Monster have like a very kind of intuitive, instinctual kind of practice where we just kind of do things. And then we just keep doing more different things until we arrive at one that we like. And then we're like, okay, well, that's the one. But very much like I do take my cue off the art. Like if it's like if I know it's going to be a boss and it's set up to be a character set up to be a boss, I'll be like, okay, great, you lean into an expectation or you subvert it. That's just kind of writing basics. So sometimes it's easiest, or I feel like it's the best option to like lean into, be like, okay, this character is a baddie from the get-go. They're antagonistic, they're hostile, they want to take you down. You as the player are set against them from day dot. Or actually, let's do something completely different, and their character voice is completely different from the way they look. And we've taken you by surprise, and now you have to stop and reassess everything you thought about what you're doing and why you're doing it. I guess it's just kind of picking those moments, because you can't always subvert those expectations, because then you just start being random and there's no like rhyme or reason for what you're doing. So yeah, you just about have to pick your moments, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the when you pick your moment about who it is that gets subverted and why, like if you keep doing it, it's like, okay, well, we know what's coming, so there's sort of randomness you have to kind of engage in before you kind of get to that point. Yeah, I suppose my next question would be more about like the wider Cult of the Lamb universe, right? Because we've obviously got a bunch of fans here as well of Cult of the Lamb. So to me, I'm kind of wondering, where does the boundary for you exist in that, like the sort of core Cult of the Lamb universe versus, you know, the comics that you were doing, or even like some of the bigger fan animations, fan art? How do you decide kind of what gets into the game versus what you put into like a comic versus what you put into, you know, like an animation, or vice versa, even in trailers? There's the sort of business needs of like, okay, we need to show people, you know, the cool thing, otherwise they're not going to know what's in it. But for expanded universe details, like how do you decide what gets into the game and what has to get put somewhere else, or even dropped on the cutting room floor?
Yeah, I guess like it's just kind of depends what the purpose is. Like Jojo recently did this really awesome puppet show that we did in Melbourne. And that was just kind of like, okay, well, this is a good opportunity to explore some of the sort of backgrounds to some of the characters and what makes sense in the context of, you know, doing a theatrical performance kind of thing. And then obviously, yeah, as you say, like a trailer needs to fit the purpose and sell specific vibes and mechanics and characters. So that kind of usually we have like a list of things that we want the trailer to sell. So that's kind of dictates what's shown in those. I guess fan art and stuff like that we wouldn't really consider canon. Like that's just like fans doing their cool interpretations and stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of, I think we are quite careful about what we do in that we don't want to cheapen the kind of universe and the characters too much. So like it'd be very easy just to lean into doing really stupid things just because it's just like it's just a stage show. Like it doesn't matter too much. Only a certain amount of people are going to see it. But then if we did some ridiculous stuff that doesn't like make sense in the lore, then I think that would just kind of cheapen the whole kind of universe and stuff.
The hardcore fans out there would skewer you for that. They're like, what? That wasn't canon? What are you talking about? Like, I've got 16 tattoos of it. What are you talking about?
That's it. And the people do care that, you know, a lot of the fans, they really do care about this stuff. So we got to be careful. We don't want to upset you guys.
I think like from the like a storytelling point of view as well, like thinking about Pilgrim for an example, which was this comic that we made like I don't even know how long ago now. But I think like as a writer, you always want to be really mindful of the medium that you're writing for. So like when we tell stories in Cult of the Lamb, you have very specific restrictions you need to abide by. Namely that one, it's got to be about the lamb. Like you can't leave the protagonist in that game. You have a playable character, that's who you're stuck with. Like you have very, and through that you have very fixed things that you can interact with and ways you can interact with the world. Like if you're always the lamb, NPCs will always treat you one specific way because of the relationship you have. When we did Pilgrim, it's like, oh, we don't have to be the lamb anymore. We can be just like these two other guys, and they're going to have a completely different experience of this world because they're not the protagonist. And so you get to access like just different parts of this cool universe that we couldn't do in the game. And like, you know, you get to see it artistically in a different way as well, like different angles, different perspectives, different like, you know, notions of scale and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I'm interested in now, I had no idea about this puppet show. I want to know more about it. I guess the question I have leading on from that is obviously both ourselves and Lost in Cult and Cult of the Lamb are having this huge collaboration for Cult of the Lamb Design Works. We're going to be putting, there's a physical version of Knucklebones in there. There's a bunch of, we're bringing Cult of the Lamb into like a sort of physical form. So I was wondering whether you have any particular feelings on like why physical is important. Like, is it important for you to have, a game that could exist digitally into like cartridges and discs and, plushies and posters? And is there anything, in your mind that makes you feel that it's important? Like for me personally, I always feel like something physical makes it real, and I don't know if that's understandable or fair, but it just having the tangibility of being able to touch the thing and feel the thing is like massive for me. But I wonder if that's the same for you both, especially when writing and art in particular aren't necessarily, especially the sort of writing and art that you do, would necessarily be in physical form necessarily. So yeah, how do you feel about physicals? Is physicals important to you? Is that like a sort of bringing ephemera into the world? Is that cool?
Oh yeah, I love physical stuff. I mean, I think particularly because we work from our computers. We're a remote studio, and then the game we make's like generally digital. It's something that people consume on a screen. And, a lot of the people buy the game digitally as well. So you kind of lose a lot of that physicality. So I think like any opportunity that we can to like bring it into the real world, as you say, even doing things like the theatre show, the puppet show, and like the live performances and stuff we've done, like kind of just bring those characters into the real world. And I love video games. And it's cool watching people play games on Twitch and stuff, but there's nothing quite like, giant puppets looming over you in the person with crazy lighting and stuff, So I think that it's just like brings the experience into a different dimension kind of thing. I think as well, like physical games are really important for the what's the word? Just
archival, like preserving games.
That's the one. Yeah, it's just nice because Steam could just go down forever one day and you lose all your games. So,
yep.
And we've seen a lot of games just getting turned off now, and the whole save games movement thing that's going on at the moment. So I think having a physical disc or cartridge that's always going to work forever, and having that thing and that you can hold and have it in your house and you're never going to lose it, and maybe your kids will discover it in 20 years and like, what's this? I think there's something really cool in that. So yeah, I'm big fan of that, and the plushes, and yeah, really excited with the design works and having a physical version of Knucklebones and all that stuff. And I think that's I think it's really important to not be just looking at a screen all day. So it's nice to do real things.
Yeah.
Also, devs love it. Like, we love it. I promise you, everyone, we're all friends in this chat, right? All 30 of us or whatever. If you have a physical Cult of the Lamb thing and you come and see us at a convention or whatever, we'll sign it. Like, no worries, no fee, no nothing. We just love seeing it.
I've been seeing a bunch of I think you did like a shrine competition, like show off your Cult of the Lamb shrine at them. Holy shit. You definitely have shrines. I would be afraid of them. However, they're really cool. They're the coolest thing ever. So congratulations there. On this idea of physicals, and this is a big question, so if you don't have the answer for it, totally fine. But I'm wondering what you kind of feel like is Cult of the Lamb's legacy. Like, Cult of the Lamb's obviously to me has kind of been cemented in this sort of modern canonization of video games, and it's had such an incredible reception. Like, what do you think is sort of going to be the lasting R of Cult of the Lamb? What makes you feel like in 20, 30 years people have been like, do you know what? Cult of the Lamb was fucking sick, and I love it. Like, what would you like Cult of the Lamb's legacy to be, I guess?
What do you think, JJ?
I think it's going to be that if we get 300,000 likes, we'll put sex in the game tweet. I think that's our legacy.
That's fuck's sake.
I don't know.
That's the best legacy to have. That's the best legacy to have. I suppose.
I just want to see loads of Cult of the Lamb tattoos. 30 years, people are like looking at their arm with a lamb tattoo, and they're like, "Why the fuck did I get that?" That's what I want our legacy to be. Regret.
I mean, I don't think they will be, because I think the cool thing about tattoos is you get the tattoo with the coolest design. So as long as it's got a cool design, you're like, yeah, I haven't played that game in whatever long, but I've got the coolest design ever. So
I've never seen a tattoo that has words from the game, which is obviously I care very much about the words in the game. So if anyone wants to get a tattoo of the words, any of the words in the game, I don't know. I'll send you a Steam key or something.
We'll put a bounty out. Steam key for whoever has it.
I'm gonna get the whole localization spreadsheet tattooed on my back.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Why would you do that?
All 12 languages.
Folks, I think I've talked enough, and I've taken up a lot of time with the technical issues. So, I'd love to ask you if you want to request to speak or put anything in the chat. Jojo and James are here to answer your questions. Here's Leighton here. I think Leighton, you had a question there. If anybody has a request to speak, go on ahead and I'll invite you up here.
Anticipation. Come on.
Hold on. Wait. Hello.
Yo.
Hi, Leighton. Hello.
Hi. I asked this in the chat earlier, but I did want to ask. So at the end of Woolhaven, I know the Mystic Seller talks about like the lamb messing with like the ether and fate and stuff, and like that might have like consequences. So I wanted to ask if we were ever going to explore that in any like future games or updates.
I just have to wait and see.
Okay.
That's all we can say, really. I mean, yeah, it's we'll see. I think you did some stuff that maybe changed things. Who knows? We don't know, but we'll figure it out. Maybe. So maybe we'll find out what they're talking about. I don't know.
Could I ask my question in the chat?
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Would you like to go ahead? Oh, we're asking the chat, I think. Okay. Hello, you've been invited to speak.
Hello, I just have a few questions that I actually want to ask. So, the first thing is that the goat's fleece looks super torn up and ragged, like compared to the lamb's one. So, was that goat like before he got into the world? Was he like fighting in a war in the timeline or something that was crossing over into ours?
Interesting.
Good one for JJ.
I feel like I've seen it in the chat. There's like heaps of lore questions, and I love them. I eat them up, and I'm so glad you guys are engaged. I think I'm so happy to speak like artistically, like what I was thinking when I wrote things. When we put big pieces of lore in the game, I always make sure that I at least have some reasoning for like how things could have happened, so it makes sense. But I think a lot of the joy of Cult of the Lamb is that there's a lot of gaps in the lore, as you would have noticed. And that's where the fun is, because you are actually building the story with us. Like we deliberately leave room, one, so that we can explore them in future updates, but two, so that you guys can like imagine things and create fan art and create fan fiction and be really, really engaged. So like I'll offer up thoughts, but if it's not in the game, it's not canon. Even if I was like crazy right now and I was like, did you know that Shimura's got boobs? That's not canon if it's not in the game.
What?
Well, that was what
It
we were
is in
looking
the
for.
game.
Everybody's going to leave now. They've got the answer they needed. That's it.
I will say, like, when we were thinking about the goat, I think that their world is very different from the world of the lamb that we know. Like, we did a lot of talking about how like they're like a dark reflection, right? Like, and in a lot of mythological and religious parables, the goat is seen as the disbeliever and the dissenter, where the lamb is seen as the faithful and the believer. So I think it's like fair enough to say that the world of the goat is very different. It's like maybe more corrupt, a darker mirror version. Maybe the things that worked out good in Cult of the Lamb worked out bad in the world of the goat. That's what I got for you.
If you're editing the wiki, there you go. it's not canon. Rihanna, I believe you have a question.
Hello.
Hi.
I wonder if I can ask, what does family relationship between bishops look like? Just any crumbs of information. It's really interesting because we got none of those.
Did you get put through your paces right now?
No, I feel like I'm like doing an exam.
Yeah, you're being cross-examined. Big spotlight on you.
Yeah. Like we know that the bishops are not related by blood. Like we've shared that in the past. Like it very much came from a, like a religious brotherhood thing where they often refer to each other with those kind of like sister, brother, sibling honorifics as well. Then it was very interesting Like I think it started with Jay was his offer first, maybe. And then it was very interesting for me to like actually build meaningful relationships between them because I think that's fun. Like dysfunctional family dynamics, I think are really engaging and just fun to write. I think that they care about each other a lot. I think that they care about power more. But like I've seen some of the work that you guys make with like, you know, family headcanons and stuff like that. And I also think that's great. Yeah.
Cool. Jojo, I'm so sorry. Everybody in the chat, like if you're asking questions specifically about lore, Jojo has told you that everything here is not canon. So she might just lie. She might just tell you a bunch of nonsense. No, but we'll be mischievous. But yes, thank you so much. Malk, you've got a question.
Yes, I have a question about the lore. Jojo,
Here we go, Jojo.
please tell me, the goat has any correlation with Shamura?
I cannot tell you. Yes,
Oh,
no,
man.
maybe.
Maybe. Oh,
I wonder about Jojo. If, like one of the questions we can talk about, I suppose that this is bringing up, is about the idea of canon. And I suppose when you're working within religious texts, particularly, canon is something that's very heavily cemented about what is true and what isn't true. So why would you kind of you've said yourself, it's kind of cooler if like there is no answer for these things, and that the fandom kind of comes up with like sort of their own answers. Is there anything in particular that like you kind of have as your own headcanon, like as sort of your own things that you're like, yeah, I think this, and nobody else in the company wants me to have it, but in my brain, that's how it works.
Oh my god, tons, like all of them.
Yeah.
There is like, we like, you know, have to do like, it's very systems focused game. Like everybody works really hard to make sure it's fun to play. That's the most important thing, is that it's fun to play. And for a game like Cult of the Lamb, it means that the narrative has to exist to support the fun to play part. So yeah, there are lots of things that like we can't really do because it would mean that we would have to like have like huge cutscenes or get really deep into some kind of like, yeah, the endless dialogue interaction or something. So I'm not allowed to do those in the game, but they all exist in here and they are my headcanons.
Yeah. That's the important part. Whenever I was working in games, all my characters were all dating each other, and I tried my best to like shoehorn little bits and pieces into things, and that was probably the most fun.
Jojo does have a big Bible of game lore, of like stuff that's not in the game, but that is sort of canon. But you're not allowed to see it, but that does exist somewhere. It's just like a big book, big document of all these cool stuff that you know, it connects it all together, but isn't necessarily in the game. But I really like that about EJJ.
Yeah,
what about yourself,
it's
James?
like 50 pages long. Somebody stop me.
What about yourself, James? Is there anything like in particular that you've kind of you yourself have as a sort of like design canon? Like what is it about? Is there any like designs that you're like, this is a character in the game and I've drawn it and I know it is, but we for whatever reason couldn't put it in? Or like, is there any even particular design, even if it's an unnamed character, is there anything that you kind of like, in my game that's there and I want that there?
I like the one thing that the priest, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry.
Zariel?
What's it? Yeah, he's just like stoned out his mind the whole time.
That's Jim's headcanon. That's also my headcanon.
Yeah, okay.
That's canon.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first, folks.
Straight up canon.
What's I don't know. I don't read the words. I just skip all the words.
So we are now kicking James from the chat. Bye, James. Bye, James. Thank you so much for joining. We'll take a couple more questions here, folks, and then we'll wrap up. I would have went a wee bit longer, but unfortunately, technical difficulties, and I think Jojo and James deserve their dinner. So let's have a couple more questions here. Coco, would you like to say a wee thing?
Oh, hello. Can you hear it?
Hi,
yes.
yeah.
Hello, Coco. Hello.
Okay, first I want to say the English is not my first language, so I will quit to ask the question and to say. So I have a question about the message service. So is it okay?
The
Mystic Seller.
Okay, so I sorry. So I I don't think Mr. Server is a weird service because in the new DLC in Wuhan, even before he says so, the scan say him has contact with its hide. So I don't trust in his service anymore. Also, in the commit programs, we can see a light and he eyes the Kramnik is running to a light and he eyes in the light in here. So I don't think she's an easy character. So I'm really afraid of it. Also, I want to know the Mrs. Service has behind him 2 little guys, just look like saying for him. So for them. So I just want to know, is it has the next contact or I don't know, just they look so cute and why did it look so sad? I don't know. Sorry about that.
The guys
I'm
behind
so
the
nervous.
Mystic
I'm so nervous because this is my first questions. I'm so sorry.
You're doing great. You're doing great. You're doing wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay. So just tell me about Miss Service story or just if spoiled, it doesn't know to matter to talking about. I just want to know about his funny things or something like that because she's a mystery character and I him so I love her so much. She looked like my childhood nightmare, you know.
Is it the Mystic Seller that you're talking about?
Yes,
Big
yes. I want to
head.
know about his something. Or it is broad,
Mm.
is nothing to can tell because in the next upgrade, his story come from. We're also excited for that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much we can say other than like from a higher dimension, and we'd love to explore that more.
We've been like sitting on Mystic Seller stuff, I think, for ages. I think like maybe since when did they come in? Relics of the Old Faith. I think like every update we've done since has been like, should we do something about the Mystic Seller? Is there something for the Mystic Seller that we can have in here? And we haven't done it because it hasn't fit. I think like Jim, like as Jim said, like higher dimension, like the Mystic Seller has been around for ages. The Mystic Seller probably knows more than they let on. And we would love to explore their worlds. There's definitely like a story there to be told. There's something cool going on. Maybe we don't 100% know what it is yet. But if we get the chance to, I think we'll do something about it. Is that fair to say, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely.
Making him promise in front of
I know what it is. I know exactly what it is.
Always have, always will.
I just haven't told you yet.
Well.
All right, so this is the penultimate question. We'll go to Leshy the Goat.
Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, hello.
So first of all, I just wanted to say how much I love the game and how much you did with it. I just really love it, and it's just something that has been on my. I have a ton of questions, but I'll just ask 3. The first one is: will there be a 3-player or 4-player co-op with new animals similar to what you did with the goat?
No plans currently.
Okay. The next one I have is: will there be more DLC, like Woolhaven like DLCs in the future, like with a whole new area and a whole new story to it?
I think for now we're I don't want to say never say never, but right now we're kind of like thinking about new games and sort of exploring ideas for new games, just because we've been working on Cult of Lamb for like 8 years. So we're keen to do something else. That might be more Cult of the Lamb, but I think like that game in my mind feels pretty complete now. Maybe one day we do something else, but like we're really excited right now about working on new stuff. And yeah, it feels good to be doing that. And I think I think we just as a studio want to kind of do what we want to do and what feels fun to do. And I think after Woolhaven, which was like a really big project, kind of spent 2 whole years on that. Did we? Oh, we spent a long time on that. And it kind of felt like, oh, do you want to do another of those? Or but because it's DLC, it kind of needs to fit within the kind of boundaries of what that game is. So I think we're excited to do something outside of those boundaries.
Okay, we'll move to our last question here. We'll go to Deucey.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello?
No, are we not doing that? Who else is here? Alex. Alex is here too.
Okay.
Hello, Alex.
I did not expect
Hello.
that. Do you hear me?
Yes,
Yo.
yes. Hello, Alex.
Okay, I have two questions. First up, one my friend asked, where was it? Oh yeah, does Shamash, how do you pronounce it? Oh, Gallic
Mac.
bird. Do they always like lore dump, like with Jalala, or are they usually more secretive?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Sorry. So we're talking about Chmac, the relic dealer, who's like cuckoo
Yeah,
crazy bananas.
They phrase it as. Let me find it. No, Clonic. Sorry.
Oh, Clonic, yeah.
Are they always like info dumping, like they were with Jalala, or are they usually more secretive?
I think when
And the
writing. Sorry.
other question is, will we see more of like the goat's world and maybe even explore it?
I'll take the first one. You take the second one, Jim. Clonic is like definitely in writing him, like, because you meet him so early in the game, he does need to do quite a bit of info dumping. He sets the scene for you. He tells you about the prophecy, all that kind of stuff, which is like the, you know, non-diegetic me as the writer reason for doing it. I think the in-universe reason is that just like that guy is experiencing literally everything at once all the time. He sees the past, he lives in the present, he lives in the future. I think he just says stuff as it occurs to him, like as it comes across him. Doesn't matter when it's happening. He just thinks about it or it arrives at him through the tarot cards and then he says it. Done.
Goats. I don't know. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Maybe.
Somebody write that down.
Yeah, right down. Wiki, get it.
Make goat
Juicy,
game, question mark?
Juicy, I've invited you up to speak. You can ask your question here just because it was my bad.
That's all good. Thanks, guys. Good to see you, Jojo and James. Thank you for putting this together, Mark. Hope you guys are doing well out there. A lot of burning questions for sure. I hit up a bunch of people and collected a bunch of questions, but I have two tiny little questions for you guys, if I may. One, this one was repeated. How did Yngya actually die? And also just a little extra, if the lamb had an Eldritch form, how would it look like?
Ooh. The Yngya dying one, I've seen like a little bit of the discourse around that, and obviously Lorna, our community manager, is awesome. Which I actually, when I wrote it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's so clear. People are absolutely going to pick up like what I'm putting down here. Yeah, no room for misinterpretation on that one. And
nice try.
There were so many questions around, and I was like, cool. I did a bad job. A part of me kind of doesn't want to say anything. But I will, because I feel like I got the podcast.
I like that pause there. That was nice.
Yeah, because I feel like so many of these questions are me being like, I can't tell you that. When I was writing it, and again, if it's not in the game, it's not canon. Like, this is a headcanon for now. Yngya was killed by the flail, by the legendary flail, Yngya's Torment. The bishops had it made by Kodai, something that was like, what does he say? Like, powerful and pliable enough to crack open the mountain. She tried to keep Woolhaven safe. She wanted to save her little lammies, but she could not hack the 4 bishops. And yeah, she just got like smushed, smashed, dead. So yeah, they killed her. And then for those who played Woolhaven, you don't want to let a perfectly good god body go to waste. That's fresh meat. So you got to use it for some stuff sometimes. But that's what I was thinking when I wrote it. I thought it would be a way clearer. Wasn't. That's on me.
Nice. What was the other question? I've forgotten.
Eldritch Lamb. What would they look like?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's definitely something that would be cool to explore at some point. I think they'd kind of be like, really holy, but then also like a balance between holy and unholy somehow, like a perfect kind of, yin yang of eldritch horror, but then also beautiful and pure and holy, but then also really dark and kind of like a sort of a reflection of the Red Crown, I guess. It's something I've sort of read people mention before, and I do think that could be something cool to explore in another game. Maybe I'm not entirely sure how we do it, but maybe we'll see. Maybe one day we'll see.
And how
Maybe
many
we'll find
boobs
out.
do they have?
The lamb has 6 breasts.
Canon.
That's at least 4
That's
more than
canon.
me, which is impressive. Folks, thank you so much for coming. Jojo, James, is there anything else you'd like to plug? Do you have any sort of social media, any projects that you'd like to chat about?
Just play Woolhaven if you haven't. Get Woolhaven. Praise the lamb.
Praise the lamb.
Nothing else.
Praise be. Well, folks, we have a collaboration that you can check out. It is Cult of the Lamb Design Works, where we're talking about development of Cult of the Lamb. You'll get a bunch of cool extras that you probably have not seen before. Also, the physical Knucklebones game, which people are absolutely tearing up my inbox about to try and get hold of. The only way to get that is if you go to lostcult.co.uk/Cult of the Lamb and pick up your copy. But yes, thank you so much for coming, folks. Jojo, James, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, we'll catch you around. Thank you so much.
Nice one. Thanks so much,
for having
guys.
us. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.